Ms. Gersel Henry, you were and shall long be beloved from many members and friends of this congregation and the larger classical, traditional, and folk music communities here in New York City. Since arriving to engage my ministry here in mid-August, there have been very few days when members of the congregation and staff have not shared of their lingering mourning and grief of losing Ms. Henry just a few short months ago. From a collection of memories from treasured friends, Ms. Henry being shared by Jerry Brown, who you just heard, to members of the professional and volunteer choirs of the congregation, to others here who considered her a longtime personal friend, Ms. Gersel shall be missed even as her legacy looms large. Last Sunday, in preparation for this service, I had a chance to have a conversation with Anthony Taylor, a member of the congregational staff since 1993. Anthony fondly remembered that on most any given Sunday, when he was preparing the buildings for morning services, Ms. Henry would walk up, breaking into song. She would be singing his name in her powerful, soothing voice, adding such joy to his morning. He and others of this congregation will remember Ms. Gersel and her 45 years of contributing to the life of this congregation. Amen. I beg your forgiveness a little bit. We're going to go over a little bit today, but we're going to go with the Spirit. Kwanzaa, what is it and why is it so important to so many people? Kwanzaa, meaning first fruits of the harvest, was started in 1966 by Dr. Maulana Karenga. It was started as the product of cultural synthesis, a synthesis of both African continental and diasporal African cultural elements. It is a synthesis of concepts based on self-commitment, grounded in ancient African traditions and reason. Kwanzaa is the annual coming together of individuals, families, and communities around the Nguzo Saba, the 7 principles. It is rooted in the practice of embodiment of these 7 daily principles through ongoing familial and community study to examine how, where, and with whom you are living these principles throughout the year. Through family storytelling, dancing, singing, drumming, and food. Sadly, this year we will not have the grand food fest, but we look forward to it next year. Those who gather, celebrate, and build on these principles within their families and larger communities. It's also abundantly clear since the founding of Kwanzaa that a commitment to the children be at the core of keeping the importance of this time of year going from one generation to the next. According to our Jill Novinsky, the Director of Religious Education for Children and Youth, this morning in their chapel, quote, our own Thorne Watts lit the candles of the Kinara as children learned the meaning of the 7 symbols traditionally placed at the Kwanzaa table. In the learning workshop, the children enjoyed a sunu, ritual drum and dance of gratitude by Shine, a Muwasi women's African drum circle. They created a collective poem drawing connections between Unitarian Universalist principles and the importance of centering the Kwanzaa tradition. The 7 principles are umoja, unity; Kujichaguli, self-determination; Ujima, collective work and responsibility. Ujamaa, cooperative economics. 5 is Nia, purpose. 6, Kuumba, creativity. And 7 is Imani, for faith. I would highly recommend for any of you looking for more details, accounts of Kwanzaa and its history, to go to the official Kwanzaa website. There is a treasure trove of information and other resources to explore. Again, Habari Gani, Habari Gani, Habari Gani. What's the news? As we've heard the second principle of Kwanzaa, and for tonight when you gather, if you practice Kwanzaa in your homes, self-determination to go inward as a group and reflect. In his annual founder's letter to the larger community written December 20th of this year, Dr. Karenga defines self-determination, especially during these times of COVID, as follows. It teaches us we must think and act for ourselves and define ourselves by the good we choose and do in the world. It speaks to our right and responsibility to be ourselves and free ourselves and make our own unique contributions to the radical reimagining and remaking of our societies and the world. And Kujichaguli stresses our moral obligation to affirm and support the rights for others, especially those oppressed and struggling for freedom, those wronged and injured and struggling for justice, and those disempowered and struggling for power over their destiny and daily lives. In co-creating today's service, I wanted to put forth examples of embodiment of self-determination through sharing a few ancestors, including Ms. Gersel Henry, a contemporary womanist theologian and Unitarian Universalist alike, who have lived or who are striving towards the embodiment of living self-determined lives. Critical to this exploration has been how these examples were and are deeply rooted in another African concept, the South African concept, Zulu to be exact, of Ubuntu. Ubuntu meaning I am because you are, or further, a person is a person through other people. As noted, Toni Morrison and the Dr. Emily Towns speak only through their experiences in being in community and living self-determined lives in that context. Again, being led to the selected reading for today was the essay that Dr. Janice Marie read. What one should know about the Dr. Emily Towns is she is the dean at the Vanderbilt University Divinity School. She is a much studied womanist theologian, a Black feminist and feminist of color scholar, a social critic who has and continues to contribute to the religious canon on issues of healthcare, economic justice, poetry, and literary theory. Her being a contemporary scholar and living what it means, I think, to be a self-determined Black woman in religious leadership in our very traditional theological climes is indeed of particular note. Next, for a portion of this morning's reading from the article, again, sharing on what Toni Morrison has left us. Dr. Towns wrote, but what Morrison taught me above all is that the holy is both radically immanent and transcendent. It is in too much of our religious and theological thought, we only focus on the transcendent at our peril. What's going to happen over there? What's going to happen over there? What we must also concentrate on is the imminent dimensions of the holy, the immigrant that's being detained, the people in our communities who are being impacted with COVID, the people right here in Midtown who are suffering the ravages of COVID under the bright lights of the city. Friends, I'm not sure how many of us have spent time with the life and legacy of Toni Morrison, but for me, even from the other side of the veil, I continue to be inspired to live my best life from the examples and the writings she gifted us with. Amen. These are just a few examples of ordinary women, along with Ms. Gersel, who embodied or embody self-determination in bold, powerful ways. Also, Dr. Janice Marie Johnson. I also invite us to consider from our congregation these brief reflections on Kwanzaa and self-determination. Rose Creighton, Community Church Board and long-term member, has been instrumental in providing me with many resources for today's service and in helping plan and share Kwanzaa here at Community Church for many years. Rose offers these words. Kujichaguli to me means to me that, like every other ethnic and religious group, we have the right to establish our goals, our needs, and our future direction. Our experiences are unique, hence no other group can define who we are. In my personal experience, the right to speak for myself is the aspect of Kujichaguli that has been most infringed upon. I have had otherwise loving people interfering with my own right to speak for myself by taking control of a conversation I was having to express a legitimate concern. This was done in a way that aborted the discussion, leaving the issues unresolved and me in a state of shock and speechlessness. In another conversation last week, long-term friend of this congregation, who has been in relationship with the church since the 1970s, Mr. Eric Coleman, offers this reflection. A memory from my youth flashes for me now in examining the concept of self-determination. It is of a tall, striking in appearance and very focused, speaking forcefully, loudly outside a mosque at the corner of 116th Street and Lenox Avenue in Harlem. The man was Malcolm X. I can't say that at a tender age, I comprehended much of what he said that afternoon, but I have no doubt phrases rang through the crowd like ownership of your own businesses, creating jobs for yourselves, building the confidence and the competence to control your own lives, and then together as sisters and brothers, make strides to rescue, restore, and sustain your own communities. He goes on, self-determination at its most effective and functional, I'd say. As we begin to hit the home stretch of this sermon, I pray that it goes without saying that although Kwanzaa is centered in African-American, Pan-African experiences, this does not mean exclusively so. In fact, as was already noted, Unitarian Universalist and those who know and work hard to embody the current principles of our living faith are doing so out of what Janice Marie shared. This past June, as she alluded to, the document Widening the Circle from 3 years of study from a small committee of 7 powerful Unitarian Universalists pulled together this report, providing recommendations on how congregations can widen the circle and see where we have fallen short in our aspirations to be an anti-racist, anti-oppressive, multicultural faith. Amen? Get yourself a copy, and it can be purchased at the Insight website, In Spirit website, the UUA's bookstore, again, widening the circle. This being said, and as 2020 fast comes to an end, is it coming to an end soon enough, y'all? I can't hear you. Is it coming to an end soon enough, y'all? And with, and with 2021 nipping at our tails, we know that the turn of the calendar doesn't mean all that we're enduring will be over. Yet, I am determined that if we continue to lift our voices as Unitarian Universalists, more dedicated to the promises of our faith, and as we remain safe in our homes and have our karamu in our homes, what might it mean for us to continue to examine deeply your commitment to this congregation and the mission and vision of our Unitarian Universalist faith? Let us all lift our voices and sing more of what it means to be and to embody our UU faith. We will now enjoy the recording of Lift Every Voice and Sing by Reggie Harris. Ashe, Amen, Shalom, Salam. May it be so, and happy Kwanzaa.